A silent hall, thousands of alien eyes fixed on one human standing alone. No species in the galaxy has ever fought with two blades at once. Every law of biology says it's impossible. But this human just smiled. The lights dimmed. The swords rose, and in the next heartbeat, the universe learned what happens when limits meet human will. This is not just a fight, it's the moment the galaxy changes forever. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to the channel and like the video. And tell us where are you watching from. Now let's jump into the story. The training hall of the Stellar Guard Institute was older than many of its students' nations, and yet it felt brand new every morning. Polished floor, soft biolights, clear air that held the faint trace of oil and metal from the practice racks. The hallkeeper rang the start bell. Cadets lined the walls in tidy rows. On the center line stood Commander Merrick, broad-shouldered, calm, and known for his strict reading of doctrine. Today he repeated a rule that everyone could recite in their sleep. No species can dual-wield primary blades with effective control. Neural pathways do not support it. The commander's voice was even, not cruel, only certain. This rule was not written to insult anyone. It was written after many studies, many injuries, and many years. Jordan Hale listened. Jordan was not the tallest or the loudest recruit. Some said the human looked more like a patient librarian than a fighter. Even so, the way Jordan held a practice sword was careful and sure, like a musician tuned to an unseen rhythm. When the rule ended, Jordan lifted a hand. The gesture was small and polite. "With respect, Commander," Jordan said, "humans train a type of coordination that splits load across both sides. We call it bilateral coordination." "I would like to demonstrate," the hall murmured. Students traded glances and half-smiles. Commander Merrick studied the human, then the rows of expectant faces. He had no love for wasted time, but he did trust a fair trial. "Very well," he said. "Captain Vore will serve as your counter." Captain Vore stepped from the shadows. He was a veteran from a heavy-gravity world. His forearms carried one long blade with relaxed confidence. His breath was slow. His eyes were still. He bowed to the commander, then to Jordan. His posture said he would not embarrass a recruit, but he would not pretend either. "First to 3 light touches," Merrick said. "Safety fields up, begin." Vore moved first. A simple test. A straight line slash meant to read timing. Jordan eased a step to the open side and drew a shallow arc with the left sword to deflect. In the same beat, the right blade traced a small circle that whispered close to Vore's shoulder, and tapped. 1 point, a small chime sounded. There was a pause great enough to hold a breath. No one spoke. Vore's second approach was faster. He used 2 arms to fake high and 2 to strike low. Jordan's left hand worked a tight shield. The right hand threaded a thin line that met the true strike and slid it away. With the lane open, the left blade became the attack, dipping in and touching armor with the gentlest kiss of metal. 2 points. The murmurs grew louder. Some students leaned forward. Others folded arms to hide surprise. Commander Merrick gave no comment. His eyes were sharp. Vore's third approach was not a test. He pressed with speed and weight, 4 limbs in a wave that covered angles in planned layers. This was the stance the hall taught all 4-armed fighters from his world. In most matches, it led to victory in 3 heartbeats. Jordan did not try to match speed with speed. The human made the pattern strange. The left cut short at times when it should have cut long. The right waited when it should have rushed. The 2 blades danced as if they had met in a quiet room before the fight and agreed to move on separate paths that still helped each other. Vore stepped, blocked, turned, and then froze. A soft tap touched his chest guard. The chime sounded for the 3rd time. Silence spread through the hall like cool water poured across stone. Commander Merrick lifted his hand. He did not smile. He simply said, "Match concluded. Recruit Hale scores 3. Then he added, "The demonstration is noted." Jordan bowed to Vore. The captain returned the bow with honest respect. He spoke low so only the human could hear. "Your timing is a whisper. I will remember this." Students crowded with questions, but the bell cut the moment cleanly. The lesson would continue. The rule was not erased, but it was cracked. A single thin line now ran through something that had once looked unbreakable. After the drill, Jordan sat alone at the edge of the hall. The human unwrapped the practice guards and flexed both hands. The fingers moved with light tremors, not from fear, but from the work of keeping two different motions honest at once. Jordan breathed in and out. The air had the taste of metal and ozone. Nira, a medic cadet with quick steps and soft eyes, walked over with a field pack. "Any strain?" she asked. "Only the usual," Jordan said. "Left forearm wakes slower than the right. It catches up." "That is the story of most teams," she said with a small smile. "One side wakes first and the other side learns to join." They shared a quiet laugh. Then the lights in the ceiling changed from warm to alert amber, and the floor hummed as the station security grid sealed. A new sound filled the air. It was the one every student knew and no student wanted to hear outside a drill. The alarm tone said only this: trouble had arrived. Commander Marek's voice came over the hall intercom with no wasted words. "All certified personnel to defensive stations. Non-certified to shelter zones. This is not a drill." Doors unfolded along the walls. Racks lowered. Squads formed by memory. The Institute had layers of response plans for every level of threat. Today the pattern was Formation Kappa, a classic interlocking defense used in tight corridors. It had worked for centuries against raiders who valued their own lives. The Rift scavengers did not. The first breach hit Junction Delta 9. Pressure slammed doors. Lights flickered. Smoke crawled along the roof seam like gray lace. Defenders braced. When the attackers poured in, the corridor filled with shapes part flesh, part chrome. They carried rigs that rewarded reckless advance. They did not slow to take cover. They did not fear wounds. They wanted the shortest path straight through. Oren, a young tactician with a habit of noticing the small thing others missed, called ranges and sightlines. Nira moved the aid cart behind the line. Captain Vor anchored the right flank with a shield staff. Jordan stood center left with a standard plasma rifle and one regulation blade. The first wave fell to measured fire. The second wave learned the gaps. The third wave rushed to touch distance, where the textbook pattern became a trap. One defender stumbled, then another. The air felt thin. The plan felt heavy. Oren's voice tightened. "They are reading us," he said. "They are keying to the timing." Jordan saw it too. Formation Kappa was a fine song, but it had a chorus that returned every 8 counts. The Rift scavengers were not brilliant, but their rigs could learn rhythms and press them. Jordan looked down the side passage and saw a maintenance locker. The human looked at the line, and then at the commander's posted order to avoid experiments. The next breath was a choice. Jordan dashed into the passage, popped the locker, and found a second regulation blade strapped to the inside hatch. The metal was clean. The grip was plain. The weight in the hand felt like a promise that had been waiting here for someone who could speak its language. Jordan took both blades and ran back to the line. "New plan," Jordan said, not loud, but with a tone that carried. The human stepped forward into the open space where the regular pattern said no one should stand. 2 blades lifted, each held as if it had a mind of its own and still cared for its partner. The first raider lunged with a spike arm. Jordan's left blade edged the spike-off path. The right blade slid between plates to tap a control line and kill the spike's motor. The raider stalled, shocked by the sudden absence of reward. The next raider swung with a saw hook. The right blade met the hook. The left blade traced a short arc that found a quiet gap under the shoulder plate. The raider folded. 2 more pressed in, and Jordan's feet wrote a strange script on the floor. A 2-line poem where each line finished the other's thought. It was not a show. It was not a flourish. It was clean work, done with breath and balance and the refusal to give a hungry machine the pattern it thought it owned. Nira watched the shape of the fight change. She had trained hands and a healer's eye for flow. "Break the chorus," she called to the line. "Sing offbeat?" Oren took the hint and shouted to the squad, "Stagger your steps. Change your posture every 3 counts. Make an opening where they do not expect." Captain Vor lifted his shield staff with 2 arms and drew a side blade with the other 2. Instead of the classic cross block, he tried a paired motion Jordan had used in the hall. Upper right with lower left, upper left with lower right. The first set held a strike while the second set reached a soft joint and tapped it. He grunted in surprise at how natural it felt after only a few tries. The corridor fight turned from a wall of bodies into a series of small dances. Each defender found a shape that worked with their own build. The raiders' rigs could not lock onto one rhythm because the rhythm kept moving and splitting, What had been a straight road became a garden path full of turns. The raiders stumbled. Jordan did not push for glory. The human worked the edge where the line was thinnest and kept it from breaking. Every move was small and useful. The two blades took very different jobs, and then traded without warning. The left would shield while the right would poke. Then the right would shield while the left would slice air to draw a greedy eye. The fight grew less loud in Jordan's mind. It felt like swimming in a river that had finally shown its true current. The press slowed. The smoke thinned. A cheer rose, not wild, more like relief that had learned manners. Commander Marek arrived with reinforcements. He took in the scene with one long look. Bodies of raiders lay still in the cross-sections. Defenders, though tired and bruised, were standing. Oren reported first. The raiders keyed to our standard. The human broke their metronome. Marek's gaze settled on the dual blades. He did not scold. He did not praise. He asked one precise question. Can this be taught without breaking minds or wrists? Yes, Jordan said, voice steady. Not the exact same way for everyone. But the principle can be taught. 2 simple jobs at once, then trade, then surprise, Nira added. And we can train the breath to keep both sides calm. Marek nodded once. Noted. The word in his mouth meant more than approval. It meant future work. The alarm died. The lights drifted back toward soft white. Teams cleared corridors, patched doors, and carried the wounded with gentle hands. Jordan leaned the blades against a wall and rubbed both forearms. The tremor was back. Nira wrapped a light support band on the left arm. Pay both sides, she said, or they will charge you interest. Jordan smiled, tired and honest. Understood. The High Council requested a debrief the next day. The room was round with a low rim of screens. Leaders from several worlds sat in a quiet ring. They watched clips of the breach fight 3 times. Each time their eyes narrowed at different moments. They asked about timing, breath, footwork, and why the line steadied after it seemed sure to break. Commander Marek presented a short note. What you see is not a stunt, he said. It is a method. The human uses paired motion and changes roles mid-beat. We lack a doctrine for this. I propose a pilot unit. The council approved a test. They gave Marek a small budget and a short window. The new unit was named the Irregular Response Team. Its members were Jordan, Captain Vor, Nira, Oren, and 4 others from diverse species who showed a knack for strange timing. They did not abandon their old skills. They learned new layers that sat gently on top and made the whole stronger. Training began in a hall without markings. Marek erased the straight lines and drew soft circles on the floor instead. Jordan taught the first lesson. The human spoke with simple words. Do not try to control 2 different blades with equal attention, Jordan said. That is a fast road to knots. Control pairs. Give one job to a pair of limbs and a different job to another pair. Even if you have only 2 limbs, let one side hold shape while the other writes a small change. Then switch. They began with empty hands. They practiced holding a cup in one hand and tapping a shoulder with the other. Then they traded. They added steps, first slow, then quicker. Nira led a breath count that kept hearts smooth. Oren made a metronome click, and then turned it off mid-phrase so bodies had to keep time without sound. Vor worked through his own learning curve. His first tries with 4 blades were a tangle that made him laugh at himself. Jordan suggested pairs, upper right with lower left, upper left with lower right. Vor's shoulders loosened and the pattern clicked. This is like a chant from home, he said. 2 voices answer 2 voices. After 2 weeks, the unit moved into scenario drills. One day it was narrow stairs. The next day it was a wide bay with low pillars. They did well some days and terrible on others. They wrote notes after each run, simple and honest. What surprised us? What we will try next time. The tone of the room changed. Instead of worshipping one correct form, they praised good change and brave small experiments. The deployment order came sooner than they expected. A research ring in the Cygnus Reach sent a distress call. Rift scavengers had boarded. A data core with sensitive navigation physics was at risk. Hostages were reported in a junction chamber near the central lab. The station's standard teams were pinned. In transit, Oren laid out a simple plan drawn from their drills. We approach from 2 directions they will not expect, he said. We create a brief false signal that looks like the Academy playbook, then we change shape. Vor and I press the front. Jordan, Nira, and Kadri circle through the service vents to reach the hostages. Once secure, we break the raiders' control links. They came out of jump above a gray ring wrapped in thin blue light. Scorch marks along the outer rim showed where the raiders had cut entry. The docking sleeve extended. The unit moved in a line that looked sloppy to a textbook, but held strength in its looseness. Small gaps opened and closed like a living thing. The first corridor held 2 raiders and tripwire drones. Nira pointed at heat flickers along the wall. "There," she said. Vor threw a low disc that made the drones blink and reset. Jordan slipped between beams, padded forward on soft feet, and clipped the drone tethers. They passed without fuss. At the junction chamber, a scout drone sent video back to their belts. 8 raiders, 12 station workers bound near a bank of tanks. The raiders faced the main hall, where standard teams were pushing. "They do not expect us behind them," Oren said. The unit split. Vor and Oren took position at the front door. Jordan, Nira, and Kadri slid along a maintenance tunnel that smelled of dust and cool air. They came out behind a service rack. Jordan counted breaths. On the 4th, Vor and Oren kicked the door and showed a bright, obvious stance that screamed Academy. The raiders surged to that threat, which vanished as the front pair ducked away. Jordan moved. The human's right blade traced a slim, quiet line to free the first 2 workers. The left blade cut a binding strap and then lifted to catch a stray swing. Kadri, light on his feet, guided the freed workers toward the duct. Nira stood tall in the open and spoke steady words that calmed panic. "Follow my voice. One at a time. Low steps. Keep left hand on the wall." 2 raiders turned to the rear. Jordan's blades wrote different sentences at once. The right batted aside a hook. The left reached under a joint where soft light leaked and tapped. The raider dropped. The second tried to grab Nira, and Kadri dropped to a knee and swept a leg to trip the attacker right into Jordan's waiting point. In less than a minute, 10 workers were clear. The last 2 were pressed by a heavy raider with a glow under his ribs. Jordan shifted weight, let the left blade go quiet, and let the right carry the load. Small pivot opened a window, and the left woke up again, tapping the glow point. The raider sagged. Vor and Oren stormed in at that moment, not with the Academy stance, but with the strange paired flow they had learned. Vor's upper right and lower left arms pulled a shield and a short blade together like 2 friends. His other pair advanced and retreated in a syncopated beat. The raider swung at where he was, but he had already moved to where they did not think he would be. The command link box sat on a crate near the main door, humming with a soft tone. Oren fired a disruptor tuned to its frequency. The hum fell apart like sugar in tea. The raiders' eyes lost that hard, endless shine. They faltered. The unit pressed, not to crush, but to end the fight cleanly. Hands were bound. Breath slowed. Station returned to its normal soft hum. The research lead, a calm person with tired eyes, thanked the unit. "We were studying safe routes through unstable space," they said. "If the raiders had taken our model, it would have made quiet attacks easy across the sector. We will escort you to the core and lock it down," Jordan said. "And we will help you move the data to a clean vault." They did, step by careful step, and then they rode home in a transport that smelled of oil and hope. When the irregular response team returned, the Institute felt different. The senior circle met them in the prime hall. The room held maps, training clips, and a long table that had hosted too many debates to count. This time, the talk was simple. Counselor Siva spoke first. "The test worked," she said. "Your report and the station logs show a clear drop in raider success when your methods were used. We will build a permanent asymmetric training division." She turned to Commander Marek. "You will oversee standards and safety. Recruit Hale." She paused and corrected herself with a thin smile. "Specialist Hale will serve as lead instructor and keep field status." Jordan bowed the head. "Thank you," the human said. "We only ask that the unit remains active so practice meets reality." "Granted," Siva said. "We want living doctrine, not a museum." The months that followed were busy and bright. The new division took over a cluster of halls and converted them into adaptable rooms with sliding walls and floors that could shift texture. Students from many worlds arrived, some with 2 arms, some with 4, some with wings, some with tails that could press a switch at just the right moment. The language of the division was simple. Pair jobs, change roles mid-beat, borrow timing from music, from work songs, From the rhythm of walking in a crowded market, do not move to impress a camera. Move to solve the shape in front of you. Nira taught breath and recovery. She showed how to shake tension out of one forearm while the other held, and how to keep a steady mind when both sides wanted to race. Oren taught field puzzles that forced small choices under mild stress. Vor taught a four-blade pairing that made big bodies gentle and fast. Jordan moved between groups, always fixing small things rather than chasing big shows. The small thing late is often the big thing early, the human would say, and students would nod and write it down. The division worked with scientists too. Neural Lab mapped how different brains learned paired motion. They found that no two maps were the same. They designed drills that let each mind find its own door into the house. They did not try to force one key into every lock. Word spread beyond the institute. Patrol units asked for short courses. Rescue teams asked for workshops on how to move two tasks at once without dropping either. Steady a beam with one hand, reach a child with the other, and still see the falling dust that warned of a second collapse. The idea traveled because it was not tied to a single species. It was a way of seeing and a way of moving. The unit stayed active. They went to a mining ring where an automated loader had gone wild. They helped in a flood zone on a moon where low gravity made water behave like a silk scarf. They stood with peacekeepers during a tense negotiation, where posture and timing mattered more than any weapon. Each time they brought back notes and folded lessons into the training halls. On a quiet evening, Jordan stood in the observation bay with Vor. The stars were a scatter of sugar across black cloth. Ships drifted like patient fish. Vor flexed his hands and smiled. "When I first saw your blades," he said, "I thought you were showing off. Now I think you were listening. To what?" Jordan asked. "To both sides of yourself," Vor said, "and to the quiet between." Jordan let the words sit. "If there is one lesson I hope this place keeps," the human said, "it is that difference is a tool, not a wall. We can make more shapes together than alone." The intercom chimed. Commander Marek's voice was clear. "Irregular response team to Ready Bay. We have movement in the Orion marches, likely raider activity. Departure in 1 hour," Vor's eyes warmed. "The stars keep asking questions," he said, "and we keep learning to answer," Jordan replied. They walked the long hall to the Ready Bay. Along the way, they passed trainees practicing bread-and-butter drills. A small group with 2 arms did paired motions with wooden sticks. A 4-armed student learned to let one pair breathe while the other pair worked. A winged student practiced soft landings between obstacles. The room hummed with small experiments done with care. In the bay, Nira checked medkits and called for extra splints. Oren plotted entry paths on a low table and hummed to keep time. The ship waited with the ramp down like an open hand. Jordan opened the locker and lifted 2 blades. The metal was plain, without gems or marks of rank. The grips were worn by real work. The human adjusted the straps across the shoulders and felt the familiar weight settle. It was not a burden. It was a reminder that both sides had jobs and both were trusted. A few trainees stood near the door, eyes wide, hungry to see how the unit moved before a mission. Jordan looked up and caught their gaze. The human did not make a speech. Instead, a few soft words carried in the steady air. "You will be told many rules," Jordan said. "Some will keep you safe. Hold those close. Some will be true until the day you outgrow them. Meet those with patience and courage. Learn the rhythm, then learn the pause between beats. That is where change begins." Nira gave a thumbs up. Vor laughed under his breath. Oren closed the tablet and slung the strap over one shoulder. The ramp lifted. The ship turned. The stars shifted from picture to path. The unit leaned into the gentle push of launch. They were a small team in a wide sky, but they carried a language that helped hands and minds move, as one while still thinking 2 different thoughts. That was enough. There was once a rule that said no species could guide 2 main blades well enough to matter. The rule held until a quiet human stepped into a circle, listened with both sides, raised 2 simple swords, and invited the galaxy to pay attention. And so the galaxy did and kept on learning.